The parable of the Good Samaritan. Luke chapter 10, verse 29. But because he wished to justify himself, he said to Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" That's a good question. Who's your neighbor? Everybody assumes that they're being a good neighbor. What is a good neighbor? Verse 30. Jesus replied, "A man fell victim to robbers as he went down from Jerusalem to Jericho. They stripped and beat him and went off, leaving him half dead in the street. A priest happened to be going down the road, but when he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side." Verse 32. Likewise, a Levite came to the place. When he saw him, he passed by on the opposite side also. Verse 33. But a Samaritan traveler who came upon him was moved with compassion at the sight. He approached the victim, poured oil and wine over his wounds, and bandaged him. Then he lifted him up on his own animal, took him to an inn, and cared for him. Verse 35. The next day, he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper with the instruction, "Take care of him. If you spend more than what I've given you, I shall repay you on my way back." Which of these 3, in your opinion, was neighbor to the robber's victim? He answered, "The one who treated him with mercy." Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." And we should do likewise, like the Good Samaritan. Now in the big city, that's difficult. We don't know who's really victim. We have a lot of robbers passing as victims, so we don't know when to be a Good Samaritan nowadays. But as you see in the parable of the Good Samaritan, Jesus said in the end, "Go and do likewise." So it's okay for you to do good. It's okay for you to care for the homeless and give them a buck or give them some wine, bottled wine, if it's sealed. That's okay according to Jesus. So who are we imitating? Are we running from Jesus? Or are we moving away from Jesus? Are we being parrots and just repeating, "Oh Father who art in heaven"? Are we applying what we learn? Are we honoring the greatest commandments given to humans? Or are we running away and acting like Satan? These are questions you want to ask yourselves. I'm not here selling Bibles or holy water on eBay or oil or wine. This is for your salvation, for your education, for your intelligence. You don't want to be a cow and just eat the grass that's shoved down your throat. You want to have options. You want to know which are the greatest commandments and which are probably the rules and regulations you should not follow. As you see in chapter 10, verse 25, the greatest commandments, there was a scholar of the law who stood up to test him and said, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" He said in reply, "You shall love the Lord, your God, with all your heart, with all your being, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." He replied to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live forever." Are you doing that? A lot of folks are dying young, but they're not following Jesus. These are buffoons. These are morons. These are not the intellect, the intelligent. The intelligent is not dying young. They're dying old like Abraham. Abraham died at 175. And God told him that he was going to have a son that would bring blessings to the world and to his community. And he did. He did. Abraham, at a very old age, after the age of 90. Even Sarah was at the age of 90. And they had a son, Isaac. And Isaac turned out to be a blessing for the world. It was true what God said. It was true. It was true what God said to Abraham. He said, "You will have a son that will bring blessings to the earth." And that's you. You gotta name him Isaac. And Abraham lived to be 175. Why wasn't he crucified? Why don't you pick up Genesis? That's in Genesis. A lot of folks want eternal life. And as you see in the greatest commandments, he was asked, "Teacher, what must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus said to him, "What is written in the law? How do you read it?" "How do you read it?" he said. "How do you interpret the law? Do you interpret it in your favor? Or is the law against your favor?" These are questions you want to ask yourself. Are you an American? Or perhaps you're a stranger, you're an alien. Maybe you're a foreigner. These are questions you want to ask yourself. Are you running away from God like Jonah? Or are you running towards God? Or are you running with God? These are questions you want to ask yourself. Now in these hot seasons, you want to stay out of the sun. You want to remind yourself that sunbathing is good, but your body will let you know when you should stop sunbathing. Let your body into the sun, and then you get out the sun, you know? Don't let the heat determine your mood. Don't let these hot summer days make you angry and rebellious. Jesus, he lived in hot summer days. Probably the hottest days of the year. Probably it was hotter in the beginning of time. A lot of scientists will tell you that the earth was hotter in the beginning of time. And Jesus, in his time, the earth was hotter. And he managed to keep his temper. And not let Satan overcome him with temptation. Well, thank you for listening. I thank you all for your donations, your contributions. Subscribe, hit like. I'm Reverend Junior PEREZ. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.